design is simple communication. Not leaving too many questions, it's kind of keeping things simple. You can make life happier through design. I was in a queue in the supermarket and there was an old lady in front of us in the queue and she was talking to the checkout girl and she said the secret to a happy life was to work hard and be nice to people. So as soon as I heard that, it kind of struck a chord with me. I'm a graphic designer, so I get involved in moving image, print, art, interactive, basically anything I can get involved in that will kind of sort of interest me really. Nature inspires me quite a lot. The kind of calmness of nature especially. But then other things inspire me, like minimal electronic music. Graphic design, on its basic level, is communication, whether that's through products or advertising. Anything that you use or you come across has been, at some stage, designed by a graphic designer. It's quite a subtle industry, really. This was a series of posters that went on the tube escalator. It was part of the AUDI Classics campaign, identifying a series of classics that have kind of stood the test of time. We picked the TT because of its classic kind of styling, really. Because it was such a kind of streamlined shape, the angle that I chose was quite specific, and just the way that I've kind of indicated just the windows just with a single line, just kind of keep it as kind of minimal as possible, really. The approach that I've got to work is very kind of stripped down and minimal. When I was at the Royal College, there wasn't the access to technology as there is now. So there was a computer room, but it was solely for the nerds. And I used to use a photocopier a lot to kind of create imagery. So it's that kind of analogue way of approaching work is something that's still kind of hardwired into my approach, really. To work on a series of posters for London Underground, it was a real kind of dream come true, really. Just the heritage of London Underground was a real kind of privilege to be part of, really. And I think that the work that I produced, it kind of had a feeling of the history of the communication that they produced, but still feeling quite contemporary as well. And it was a very visible campaign, so literally millions of people would have seen it. I was approached by AUDI magazine. I was asked to produce illustrations based on 6 iconic pieces of the YBA movement.
The young British artists have been amongst the most controversial, arguably in history, certainly in terms of the modern age.
And it's a generation that I kind of grew up with whilst at art school, so that they were kind of emerging at a similar time as myself.
People know about the shark inside formaldehyde, and Tracy Emin's bed, which was just a bed in a room. And it's often accused of being incredibly shallow and meaningless, and the kind of art that absolutely anybody can do. I suppose it's that controversy really that we were attracted to. So we wanted to look at some of the main works, and we've asked two writers to talk about them. So we've got somebody who's for it and somebody against it. So each piece of art has two bits of copy with it. Probably a lot of the readers, the kind of average person out there, of which I'd probably include myself, look at a lot of the art and think this is just a total load of rubbish. So I wanted to put in a counterpoint that people could kind of agree with or disagree with, really.
We picked a list of iconic pieces: two Damien Hirsts, Tracy Emin, Chapman Brothers, Mark Quinn. Anthony's
got a very, very simplistic graphic style. That's not to say it's simple to do. It's actually very hard sometimes to get a complex object and portray it in a very simple way. But because we were dealing with quite complex ideas and quite a variety of different types of art, for instance, Marcus Quinn did a glass head full of his own blood, which he froze, which is a work called Self. And then at the other end of the extreme, you've got Cornelia Parker has this exploding shed with a light bulb in the middle. And these works of art are quite difficult to grasp in your mind, and they all look very different and they're on different scales. So what we wanted to do was give the feature a kind of coherent look, a coherency, by illustrating them in a very graphic, easy to understand style. And we just felt that Anthony was going to be really strong for that.
I know it's always hard when you're dealing with somebody else's creative work to kind of take on their imagery and to kind of give it my kind of stamp, really. It's quite a tricky thing. Tracy Emin uses quite a lot of type in her work, so that was one thing I was quite interested in using as well. So I kind of thought of the line "Go to bed, Tracy." It kind of refers to her around that time, I suppose, her party lifestyle as well. And then on the other drawing, it's a kind of plan view of her untidy bed. So on the left you've got the sheets and pillows and things, and then on the right hand side I think it's on a rug. There's all the detritus of the night before. With the Damien Hirst shark, basically that's a silhouette of a shark then placed within 3 boxes to represent the tank, and through that you get the colouring, the kind of green of the water and the dark shark. So I think that's quite a successful piece.
Anthony doesn't just draw it like a photographic account, it's definitely his interpretation of it. But because he gives things quite a graphic kind of look, it works well on the pages.
These are actually portraits of my friends who I work with on the PAM collaboration. As well as producing still imagery, something that I've always been interested in is moving imagery.
On the last day of our relationship, my girlfriend brought toys. I had no idea our romance had ended and was delighted to join her in a Connect 4 contest.
When I was at college, I worked with a few friends on moving image work, and since then basically we've kind of been working together to produce moving imagery.
It's over, she told me halfway through a game. What's over? I asked, happy to be having so much fun. You and me, she replied, abandoning Connect 4 and plugging in Astro Wars.
It has my aesthetic and my approach.
I don't want to see you anymore.
But it's that added third dimension of time and music.
I tried to see how much she was scoring, but was blinded by tears. I knew the game. Just by listening, I could tell she was doing very well.
What annoys you?
Not very much, really.